Have you ever faced an obstacle that seemed too big to move, climb, or go around? I mean, something huge like Mount Kilimanjaro, the dormant volcano in Tanzania. Mount Kilimanjaro is the highest single freestanding mountain above sea level in the world. Just imagine tackling something like that. Well, my guest today, Nancy Pickard, literally climbed that mega mountain at the young age of 61 years. Now she helps others overcome their fears, no matter what the size or shape. Hey, everybody, welcome to Perpetual Motion. I'm the host, Dr. Mo Anderson. I'm a best-selling author, award-winning podcast host, conference speaker, and speaker coach. My goal for each episode is to help you stress less, produce more, and love the ones you're with.
You can't say Dr. Mo ain't tell ya that fear magnifies the consequences of failure. What are you scared of? Why are you afraid? I'd rather live like I'm dying than live to die. Any day my heart is pure, my soul is safe.
Hello, Nancy. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you are most welcome. You are an amazing person and you have an amazing life. In addition to climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, you have a BS in psychology, an MS in education, and you are a certified personal trainer. You also have a best-selling book, internationally best-selling, I might add, titled Bigger, Better, Braver, Conquer Your Fears, Embrace Your Courage, and Transform Your Life. And I can't wait to discuss it. But first, what is your driving force? What gives you so much courage?
I've learned to have it. I didn't always have it. Believe me, I didn't always have it. I think that what's happened in the last years is that I've learned that anything I'm afraid to do, growth is on the other side. You know, the moment I step in, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm in it now. There's motion, and everything that, like, my imposter syndrome was saying, oh, that's not you. That's bigger than you. You can't do that. The moment I step in, I am that. So anything I'm asked to do, if I'm afraid to do it, I hear it, I feel it, and I move with it anyway.
I certainly believe in that philosophy. Just jump off the cliff and Providence will give you wings.
Yeah.
Just open up. They really, really do. And it's hard to get people to understand that, but you just have to go into the unknown sometimes. Let's start with, speaking of the unknown, we've got to dive into that amazing feat you accomplished. Tell us about Kilimanjaro.
So I was turning 60, and, at the time I thought it was like this ugly, ugly number, which, I'd be happy to have that number back. Trust me. But I wanted to do something that was outside my comfort zone and was going to actually, just really make me know who I was and what I was capable of doing, and that age was just a number. And so I started to train to go, and I couldn't find anyone who wanted to go. It's not like saying, hey, do you want to go to South Beach for the weekend?
Right?
This is like a big to do.
It's a commitment.
It's a huge commitment. It's a financial commitment. It's a training commitment. It really has to be on somebody's bucket list. And I tried a few times and I couldn't really get anyone to stick. And then when I actually was 60, Team in Training for Leukemia they were launching their first Kilimanjaro. And I had done like marathons and centuries. I've done a lot of Team in Training. I love it. You're raising money and you're being trained. It's a win-win. So I decided to do it. And by the time it actually took place, I was 61. But I had so overtrained because I was, as you mentioned, I used to be a personal trainer, and I knew how to train, and I lived in Aspen, Colorado. So I was already in altitude training. By the time I got to Kilimanjaro, even though there were like 30 people and it was from 2 different cities and I didn't really know anybody, and they were all in their 20s and 30s, maybe one in the 40s and one in their 50s. And there was one guy that was like a few months older than I am. I rocked it. Like I had to get my own.
Yeah.
I got my own Sherpas. That's right. I couldn't go at their pace. They were so slow. And I kept saying, I trained so hard for this. Like, I have to do my Kilimanjaro. I can't be stuck doing somebody else's Kilimanjaro. This is like a big deal for me. And I just had the best time and loved every moment of it.
That had to be a really great feeling for you, though, because if you were doing that kind of in isolation from these other people, you had no idea that you had overtrained. You were probably thinking, "Oh, I hope they don't leave me." Or did you feel that confident when you got there that you were?
Yeah, I never thought they would leave me. I knew I would be fine because I really am an athlete, but I didn't know that none of them could keep my pace. That I didn't know. I should have, because I live in altitude, but I didn't. So it was great.
Yeah, and that altitude is no joke. I've gotten altitude sickness just going to Colorado, so I can't even.
Yeah, it's no joke.
So we got these weekend warriors, these folks that just go out and try to be athletes on the weekend. It sounds like some of your companions were trying to be weekend mountain climbers.
Yeah. Like I'm an overdoer, right? I'm an over preparer, an over trainer. So anybody who knows me was not surprised that that's how I am, but that's what makes me feel safe.
Yes.
Like I had no fear going into this because I was so well trained that I knew that was not going to be the issue.
Nice. And nice that you know what makes you feel safe, because that's part of a lot of people's fears, that they've never felt safe. So that's an amazing feat. I mean, let's just put that out there at any age, but particularly at 60, 61. I'm so proud of you, and that's inspiring. And now today you coach others on how to step out of fear and achieve big goals. What was your life like before you learned to conquer your fears?
You know, it's really interesting. I was married for 26 years and I did do big things, but I always would say, well, I would say it to other people, but I also believed it to myself, that the reason I was so capable was that I was married to this man and we had this life and I was half of a whole. And I can tell you that the reason why I no longer am afraid to do things is because I have learned that I am whole. And that was a huge, huge transformation for me. I was other referenced my whole marriage. I thought that, I saw myself through the eyes of how he saw me. Everything I did, I thought I was capable of doing because I had this great life and support. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until the rug got pulled out from under me. And then I had to climb back up because he was my reference. So if he no longer wanted me, I must not be worthy anymore.
Wow.
And I lost myself for a very long time. And I had to learn to trust myself and to love myself all over again. But once I did, then there was no fear, because if all I have to do is know that I am responsible, right, well, then I know I'm going to get it done, because that's who I am. Once you don't need anybody else, you can get it done. And that's what I want for everyone. I want everyone to learn to chunk down everything they do into bite-sized steps so that they can be successful and that they can learn to trust themselves and stay in alignment with what they tell themselves and love themselves. And then you don't have to fear anything.
You don't have to fear anything. That's beautiful. I can't remember my Baylor alum who talks about how to eat an elephant one bite at a time, but it's right, that same philosophy. And that's what's scary. People think, oh my goodness, I got to eat this big old thing. I got to do this big old thing. I got to beat this big old thing all at once. But every great thing you see was a culmination of steps. Rome clearly was not built in a day. And
right.
That's a big transformation for you, but what the people around you, I'm wondering, how did they react to you making this transformation? Because that's not just a change in attitude, that would have exuded in your personality and your behavior all around. How did that affect your friends and family?
I think in general, people say, I'm so proud of you. I can't believe the woman you've become. You're unrecognizable.
Wow.
But I'm not just unrecognizable because of that. I'm also unrecognizable because I've learned to uncover, some of my disempowering beliefs. And also, this is a whole other concept. I don't know if we want to get into it, but my disowned qualities. So the qualities that we don't see in ourselves, we actually attract people into our life to show those to us. Those are our triggers. Mm-hmm. So, oh, he's so disrespectful. He's so lazy. He's such a liar. Well, those were words I didn't see in myself. And so the universe in all its brilliance would bring me those people to get me upset and to teach me, now that I know how to do that, to look at those qualities, own them back. So I no longer need the universe to bring them to me. So I learned to become, and I learned to become the observer instead of the reactor. So I'm so much less reactive and fighty. And in my old days, I would send off these bad emails and, that I was justified in saying and triggered all over the place. Well, I don't do that anymore. So I'm softer. I'm still not the softest person, because that's just not who I am, but I've mellowed so much.
That's a beautiful thing to come to that place of peace. We just celebrated Mother's Day, and my sons were teasing me about always asking for the manager. But that was part of my thing, was that, you're not going to treat me any kind of way. Just every little thing was triggering if I felt like I was being disrespectful, which was really tied to a deeper insecurity about myself and, looking for perfection. And now that I'm not in that place, I know it has a positive impact on me and the people around me as well. So kudos to you for realizing that and doing something about it, because there's two terribly different things to know and to act.
Right. But I think you'd probably agree with me. As a coach, I try to stay in alignment with everything I say I'm going to do, because how can I ask my clients to do that if I don't do it?
Model it. Mm-hmm.
You have to model it. You can't ask other people to do what you can't do yourself. And we're not perfectionists. And, I say I love my awesomeness, but I love my flawsomeness. I know who I am, at this point in my life. And I'm going to mess up.
Right.
And I'm going to fall on my face, but I'm going to fall forward.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Pick myself up.
Yeah.
That's nothing new, right?
Absolutely. And we've survived it. You can look back at those failures and realize it's only an opportunity for growth, as opposed to that's the end of the world. And that propel you really. So many of us have, fears and attitudes and behaviors that we reframe as, that's the way I'm wired. That's just the way I am. Or we adopt a very apathetic, I don't care attitude, because that means I don't have to confront, I don't have to change anything, to avoid taking on certain challenges, or challenging, whether it's challenging people, challenging situations, challenging roles. How can you uncover your fears if you don't realize or admit that they exist?
Well, that statement, this is just how I am, is, I used to think, I'm just a long-term relationship person, because I would go from long-term relationship to long-term. So that was I thought that's just who I am. Mm-hmm. But really, there are beliefs underneath that. So I had the belief, which I call a shadow belief, that I wasn't safe alone. And I didn't know I had that belief for almost 50 years. But I got that belief at 5 years old. I was playing with a big fancy lighter, and I put my little party dress on fire. And me on fire.
Wow.
And I almost died, but I didn't. And it was all first and second degree burn. So even though I was in the hospital for a week with shots of, Vaseline bandages, I have no scars. I didn't get punished because my parents were so happy I was alive. I went through my life thinking that, even not even remembering I did it, and certainly not thinking it played a role in my life. At all. But actually it did, because that little girl stuck inside me didn't believe she was safe alone. That's the perfect answer for a 5-year-old who puts herself on fire. So these beliefs are formed in the first 10 years of our life, something happens. It certainly doesn't have to be as big as a fire.
Right.
It could be standing up in class at 7 years old and saying a word wrong and everybody laughing. It could be you live in with an alcoholic parent and you stay small to stay safe, or you figure out you have to be perfect to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
Or your voice doesn't matter. Your needs don't matter. I'm broken. I'm unworthy. I'm disposable. I'm unlovable.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never be enough. All
Right.
of these are shadow beliefs. They're things, something happens in a child and they don't know it, but this becomes embedded in their subconscious and it rules their operating system. So when somebody says to you, this is just the way I am, I would say, well, let's try to figure out why.
Yes.
What's the belief underneath that? Because there's always a shadow belief that goes along with any of those kind of habitual thoughts and patterns that you have.
Absolutely. That's an eye opener too. When you finally, go back to that moment, it's like, oh my God, mine was abandonment because it's something that happened when I was very young. And it's like, oh my goodness, I've been reacting to that for,
forever. Yes.
Forever, not even realizing that was controlling me. So you've talked about, your shadow beliefs and actually, I'll tell you what, let's just pause. You've referenced it and used an example and an analogy, but will you just specifically define shadow beliefs for us?
Mm-hmm. So the term shadow belief is really from Jungian psychology, and it's a belief that is hidden in your subconscious. That's why it's like in the shadows. And it was formed to keep you safe, which, my belief that I wasn't safe alone, it leads to an underlying commitment. And the commitment is put in place to keep that belief alive. So if I'm not safe alone, I made a promise or a commitment to myself to never be alone.
Never be alone.
So therefore, I was the best friend to all my girlfriends. I was like an indispensable girlfriend.
I would imagine.
twist myself up in a pretzel to be digestible to every man I dated. I was the fixer, the people pleaser. All of those things were because I didn't think I was safe alone. However, I didn't know it.
And do you think, I'm thinking about, great definition, by the way, when you were talking about, with your marriage and with previous relationships, just working so hard to be amenable, to, be acceptable. It seems like that some people feel like you can't be complementary in a relationship. You can't be a whole person and be part of a relationship. It seems like a lot of women and some men think that that's what's necessary to sustain a relationship. Do you feel like that's an attitude that some people have, which is why they avoid trying to seek, personal growth and development?
I think in general, I know I'm generalizing here,
right.
But in general, people become very codependent in their marriages. And they actually get to a place where they think that they can't take a trip alone. They can't start something new. And I watch it in my clients, and I watch the nervousness of, when one person wants to step out and do something differently, it's like, warning, they're freaking out.
Right.
And I don't have that in my relationship now. In my relationship now, we come and go, we take different vacations. We actually live in 2 different states. So we are together maybe 85% of the time, but we love that other 15% of the time because we're living in our own places and doing our own thing. And so I feel like 2 people, they should be standing close together, but that if one moves apart, the other doesn't fall down.
Right.
What's happening in these codependent relationships is that they're more like a teepee. And when one side moves back, the other person falls down.
Exactly. So for the people who are paralyzed or frozen with fear of a myriad of things, How do they use fear as a driving force for change?
Well, I can speak for myself that I use it because I can feel that I have it and that I know that I'm going to grow from doing that thing. That's not like saying, oh, I'm in a really bad neighborhood and I'm going to walk down this dark alley and I can feel fear, but I'm going to ignore it. That's the kind of fear you actually want to pay attention to.
It's healthy fear.
It's healthy fear. What you don't want to do is let the fears, and so many people have so many fears. And I'm here to tell you, your listeners, that nobody lives in a fearless state.
Right.
Nobody has no fears. Those of us who have learned that the universe has a design for us and the universe has our back, and whether we succeed or fail, that's part of the evolution of what we're supposed to be doing on Earth this time around. So with that belief, you can take fear by the hand and step in. And then I also do this thing with my clients where I'll say, all right, what's the worst case scenario?
Yes.
What's the worst case scenario? Is your partner going to leave you? Are you going to be homeless? Are you're going to lose your job? Just tell me, what's the worst case scenario? And then what's the likelihood of that? What's the percentage of that happening? And then if the worst case scenario happens, what will you do? So now you've got an answer. So you know that even if you're on the street, you'll figure it out and you've got people you can go to and things you can do, right? Yes, there are better relationships out there, because if you want to leave this one, then it's not good. And there is a better one out there. Even if it's just with yourself, that's better.
Yes.
So when they start to unravel that their fears are really so misguided and that their fears are worse than the thing that's going to happen.
Right. Out of proportion to reality.
It's so out of proportion. It's like paying forward for a debt you may never owe. That's what fear is.
Wow.
And it causes all the drama. I always think back to like when you were a little kid, you played that game where you put one hand on top of the other. You keep kind of going like this. Well, I think that the event is all the way at the bottom, and all of the fear and the drama and the disempowering beliefs and, the negative self-talk is what gets on top of it. Right. It's all wasted energy.
Oh, absolutely wasted energy. And I just, I think about too, that a lot of people, in keeping with what you said, they really don't know what they're here for. They haven't discovered their why. And so that they don't understand that for people who seem like they don't have any fear, it's just a purpose. I know a purpose that I'm passionate about, that I'm moving forward. And so the process is, if something minor breaks down along that journey, that's not the end of my purpose. So I still have something to drive me and still feel bold and courageous about it. Your clients are very, very lucky. You have a wonderful way with words and great examples, and you're willing to use yourself, which is something I would say to anyone. If you're going to have a role model, they should be willing to tell you about, their challenges and disappointments, along with all the wonderful things that they've done. And a lot of people don't.
I tell them, I'm a mentor for coaches, and I tell them that you coach from the scar, not the wound.
Yes. That's
I'm not going to get on the phone with my clients and say, oh my God, I just had the worst fight with my boyfriend, right? Those are not the conversations, but I share my drama and how I overcame it. What are the tools and strategies I use to move beyond it, so that that I'm relatable. I'm one of the reasons why I'm such a good coach is that I've had so many things happen. Like I've lost babies at the end of a pregnancy, and I've had cancer, and I had a divorce after 26 years. I mean, it's not like I've lived on this, beautiful lily pad my whole life. And so there's very few things you can bring to me that I can't relate to. Right. And that's what makes you such a good coach. We have overcome a lot, and yet we're not perfect. We don't try to be perfect. We still have challenges all the time, but we have a growth mindset and we're always moving forward.
Right. Agreed. My life has not been a crystal staircase for sure, but we still press on, and I'm really enjoying my life, scars and all, as you are. Clearly, it just radiates from you.
Thank you.
Folks who really aren't in they don't feel like they're paralyzed with fear, but they're also not quite moving forward at the rate at which they'd like to move. They're kind of on autopilot. How do we get out when we're just functioning? You made it all the way home. You don't remember the stoplights. You don't remember the stop signs. You don't remember changing lanes. You got to where you were going, but you have no idea how that happened or what happens next. How do we get out of autopilot?
I think you have to actually learn to start asking yourself some questions. What do I want? What do I need? Why am I not happy?
Right.
Why am I stuck? Where am I stuck? And I mean, there are a lot of things you can do. So you have to figure out what your autopilot habits are. What are you doing to numb out? Are you a overeater, overshopper? Are you on social media all day long? Are you addicted to the dings and the checking and who's watching me and who's checking in with what I said? Like, where are you on autopilot? What are the things that you do mindlessly? And then, like, if you were my client, then we would come up with action steps to change that so that you would stop doing things mindlessly. But the other thing you can do is ask yourself this question. I say I want X, but what I'm experiencing is Y. I say I want to lose 20 pounds, but what I'm experiencing is having a cookie every night. Or I say I want to lose 20 pounds, but what I'm experiencing is I don't get up in the morning when my alarm goes off to exercise. So we have these things called underlying commitments, and those commitments, those are our first commitments. So you have to figure out what that is, because when you say you want something, but you're not getting it, you're more committed to something else. And that thing is in your subconscious. And that's the thing that you're following through with. So I say I want to be I want to get married.
Right.
But what I'm experiencing is finding something wrong with every guy I date and breaking up with them before they can break up with me. Right. So you're actually more committed to keeping your heart safe.
And taking that risk.
Yeah. Right. I say I want to lose. So I have a client who was like 300 pounds overweight. And it turned out that something had happened early in her childhood, and she didn't get to eat all day long, and she was crying, and it was involved with an emotional event. So that just made it even more dramatic in her brain. And she had the belief she would always be hungry. So she made an underlying commitment to herself to never go hungry.
That's deep. Wow. That's
300 deep. Pounds later, every diet, everything, having her stomach like cut out, all that stuff, she uncovered that belief. And I don't care how many diets you're on, if you still have that commitment to never go hungry, you'll never be able to move forward. Right. So all of those, whatever our first commitments are, whether it's to instant gratification, it's feeding a wound versus your conscious adult mind going for long-term gratification. All right, I'm going to give up the alcohol for 3 months so I can lose the 10 pounds, or I'm going to give up everything white so I can lose. That's long-term gratification. Needing the cookie is feeding the wound, and that's the instant gratification.
Gotcha. When you said give up everything white, I was thinking about bread for a minute. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, just white food.
I got you. Let's just clarify. And then
we're just clarifying.
That was not me.
Yeah. Yeah. See, brown food is really healthier for you. Everything about it, brown rice, white rice. Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not bleached. I was
Yeah.
at a Whole Foods seminar maybe 30 years ago when I realized that, oh, wait a minute, that is not the natural color of most of the things that we ignore. They
I
bring
know.
green or any of these other colors. So that's
Crazy.
there's a little health nutrition tip for you folks,
There
right?
you go.
All sugar, brown rice is, bread, um, not overly processed and heavy and really good for you. And overly processed minds too can be detrimental to your health when you're overthinking it as well. Nancy, you are just really, really inspiring as a coach, as a writer, as an athlete, but you're also a mother and a grandmother like me. I love that. So we're
the best.
not seeing these things in isolation from some high single perch and not dealing with other people, just sending out edicts to everyone. I'm wondering how do we apply this growth mindset to conversations with our sons and grandkids, and maybe they can avoid some of these unconscious commitments that we've made.
Yeah, my sons are both adults. They're 36 and 42, and they both have a total growth mindset, and they both know that they can try things and fall and fail and move on. So I don't know. I didn't always have that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they learned it from me or my former husband, or it's just in our epigenetics. So, but my grandchildren, I use it all the time. And I don't talk about them being successful. I talk about, what did you do today that you were afraid to do?
Oh, wow.
It's about resiliency, and it's about trying as many things as they can try. And it's okay not to be good at it. It's just, so when my granddaughters will call me and say, Nana, I was bigger, better, braver today. I'm like, really? What did you do? And then we get into a whole conversation about it. That's what I want. I mean, I have three out of four of my grandchildren are girls. So my first three are girls. And it's like, you want them to be resilient and strong and powerful and be willing to try a lot of things and not just try things that they're good at. And so my advice is to let your children fall and fail as often as you can. Talk to them about being brave. Tell them what you did today that was brave, or what you did today that you failed at, but you're so glad you did it because this is what you learned.
Right.
These are the conversations to have with our grandchildren and our children, depending on how old your children are.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I have two boys and a girl, and not only fail, but, work with them through the consequences and understanding that there are consequences to actions. We've got a lot of helicopter parents and grandparents now that are, taking away those very good life lessons. I've learned so much more from my failures than my successes, as a matter of fact. And that's something that we really have to change as well. So you coach, you have books, you have your book, you have, you're on a lot of podcasts. Do you have your own podcast?
I don't have my own podcast. What I have, one of the things that I did recently that was bigger, better, braver was I was invited to, would I build a course for this company called Gen Connect You. And Gen Connect You is a platform for women, and it's entrepreneurial women in business, and it's all kinds of courses that are built for women. So I built one called Strategies and Tools for Living Your Most Purposeful Life. Nice. And it's basically similar to my bigger, better, braver, but it's really formed for more business, setting healthy boundaries, self-sabotage, all of those kinds of things. Okay. And Oh, I forgot what you asked me.
Well, you can share with you're in that vein of what I asked, and I want to know what inspired you to write your book, Bigger, Better, Braver.
All right. I think you asked me something I can't remember now that went to what I was saying about that course. But that, I don't know. I guess you'll find it when you go back. Anyway, what inspired me?
We're good. Your book isn't just about climbing Mount
Kilimanjaro. No. It's a how-to.
Right.
I really did the book because I wanted people who couldn't afford a life coach. We're not the cheapest thing in the world, right? Who couldn't afford a life coach to pick up a book for $18 and do all the exercises chapter by chapter by chapter and change their life by themselves. And so that's what I started with. And then I built an Evergreen course that's very inexpensive, that you can get the book and then you get 10 audio lessons and a workbook. And you can do it again, all by yourself. You could do it 100 times. And now I have this other course from Jen Connect You. And I also take that course and do like group Zoom. You know, if I get 10 people together, I'll take them through a 12-week Bigger, Better, Braver Zoom. So they get the audios, they get the workbook, but we're laser coaching every week.
Right.
So I sort of built this tier of having something for everybody. So nobody should not be able to move forward in their life.
That's awesome. Nobody should not be able to move forward in their life. That's a tweet right there. And it's so sad that so many people feel like they can't, but indeed they can.
I know, it's really, it breaks my heart how many people are frozen in their fears.
Yes.
It just breaks my heart because they don't have to be.
It is.
They really don't.
And they really don't have to be. How can listeners connect with you, Nancy, order your book, or if there's anything else you want to share? I'm just going to give you the mic.
Everything's on my website. Honestly, Nancy Pickard, life coach. You can get a free chapter of my book. You can get a 20% coupon off for the Jen Connect You course. And you can sign up for a free discovery call with me just to see if coaching is something that would help you. And if coaching with me one-on-one is not something you can do one of those other tiers. I can give you other coaches. So, I just want everyone to be supported at whatever level they can so that they can move beyond where they are to where they want to go.
Outstanding. This has been inspiring and motivating. And I just love the way you're making your wisdom available to people at whatever level they find themselves right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wasn't that a great program? Oh, love that episode. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Learn more about me on my website, drmoanderson.com. That's MOE. You can read book excerpts, watch videos, learn about my services that I offer, and book me for a speaking engagement. I'd love to talk with your group, and I'd love to work with you. So until the next time, review, renew, and re-you. Thank you.